that's how it's done. That means you have to know exactly why. Zach.
Bone through.
But now comes the art of the surgeon, the fine cut. It goes like this. This is, for example, a so-called layer scans. Normally, that's done electronically, right? Yes. But I prefer to do it for real. You understand? Yes. So, you can then cut the person open and see what they have. If they somehow, I don't know, have heart issues, then you cut them completely into layers and can then look.
When you're hungry,
now would come
you
the
can't
heart.
just suddenly stick a piece in like that. What? When you're hungry, you can't just suddenly grab a
No.
piece.
Man.
It actually tastes like minced meat.
No, you absolutely can't do that. That's cannibalism. What is? Then here would be the knee. And then we would want to remove the calf and the upper thigh, inner side. Zap. It's as simple as that. Here would be the knee. Off it goes. Then it is somehow put back together. That's not my area. I only cut. Someone else does the putting back together. Knee pilots. Yes, in a way. Or beets. They mostly come from Poland because they are cheaper.
Until next time. Yes, Saturday emergency room.
I am a doctor, an emergency physician, actually a surgeon in the emergency room at Pastor Pascal Hospital. The music we just heard is what's called awakening music. So, if someone has undergone a major operation, I sit down and play this awakening music because I also used to play the organ a bit in church when I was still a churchgoer, when I still had the time. But I have to be honest, in the emergency room, there's so much going on that I hardly have any time for myself anymore, when I would usually like to party at night.
Since yesterday, Friday, yes, not on duty.
I've basically been on duty since
But
Thursday.
at parties, yes.
I should mention, first of all, I need to explain briefly, my son plays for Adler Dahlhausen, and they had a game on Thursday afternoon, which we won. And afterward, we of course celebrated nicely here. And then I had Friday off. So I spent the whole night out with my son. We were in the old town of Düsseldorf. And then, of course, we didn't go home. We stayed up all night. And the next morning, we drove to Haltern, to the Lake District, where a swim helped clear our heads a bit. Then we spent the whole day shopping, driving to Venlo in the Netherlands. They have cheap stuff like lollipops and butter, chocolate butter, and things like that. So we picked up quite a bit. And in the past, people used to smuggle it. But today that's not necessary anymore. Then my son went to the hairdresser. It's cheaper there. It costs 14.40 euros. And here in Essen, well, in our city where we live, it costs 15 euros and 10 cents. And there's quite a difference. And even as a doctor, you have to watch your cash a bit.
Then we
meaning
met
your
a
money.
young woman there at night.
Then he was at the hairdresser, and I was just looking around outside. And then, you know how it goes? A young woman came my way, and I said, I'm a doctor. And of course, she was immediately all excited, as expected. One was keeping an eye on you, and one on your son. Yeah, we left the son at the hairdresser. I drove off with the young woman in my convertible. And it was a lovely time. The weather was fortunately nice too. In the evening, we went to a disco, danced a lot, and drank heavily again. We danced the whole night away, without closing an eye. Sangria, you know. Drink from a bucket. And I already made plans with her. I might go to Mallorca with her. But I had to leave at 5
In the
o'clock.
hospital, right?
2
Yes.
sleepless nights,
After-
7
yes.
o'clock coming in,
But
no,
doesn't
6
even
o'clock.
have to- at
6
the
o'clock goes
doctor,
through.
Yes, yes.
6 o'clock.
Sexual efforts.
Yes, 6
Yes,
o'clock.
I need to
Yeah.
rest first.
You arrive
Yes.
all knackered.
Yes.
You think,
Yes.
what's happening here?
Yes.
Suddenly, sometimes I don't even know where I am. I just hear the sirens. Then someone is being wheeled in. Feet. First. Probably drunk as well. Fell on the sidewalk. Then they get stitched up and whatever else they have. Some people just come in with headaches,
You
especially
also have
on
to
Friday
rest for a
evenings.
long time and spread out to other
Saturday
houses,
is even
right?
worse when
Yes.
Borussia has played.
Yes.
So many people come in with injuries they've gotten at the soccer game, like in the stands. They don't serve real glass anymore, only plastic for beer. Still, if you fall into one of those plastic cups with your eye or something, it can be quite dangerous. We've seen some impressive injuries. When summer comes, the emergency room is always full.
Piles up on Saturday, you could say,
Yes,
when the cold
especially
stops.
Saturday.
Accidents
Right.
increase.
Right? And you stay cool. Well, I have quite a bit to do. And the work keeps you fresh. Because as soon as you have a moment, let's say, when no one is being wheeled in, you start
Fluffy.
having silly thoughts. But when someone comes in, you're glad again. And it's interesting to see what issues they all have.
Cup of coffee.
There are some extraordinary cases.
Replace
Recently,
the cup of coffee.
they brought in a woman who fell asleep while ironing. Can you imagine that? But she couldn't be saved. She fell onto the iron and it practically burned through to her heart. But the remaining parts, like the legs and such, you can still use. Now this is a little story I'll tell now. We had frozen the parts. We do have a large freezer in the emergency room for such special cases. And then we had them, as I said, the iron wasn't, but it was also a unique case, a rare case. You have to say, that really shouldn't happen. It really shouldn't happen at all. Normally, a ground fault circuit interrupter would prevent this, if they'd had one, but they probably had old ones. When people are stingy, they don't rewire the electricity. So there were 100-year-old cables or so, and then she just peacefully fell asleep on the iron. Well, anyway, regardless, we put the remains into the freezer. And then someone was brought in. Believe it or not, he may have been unlucky. The guy was a rower. He was rowing too fast and then rode into a concrete pillar and got injured. It was game over immediately. His head flew into the front of the ship due to the speed. Then they quickly brought him in bags. And we saw, a few parts were still in good condition. The head wasn't actually bad. It was just
excited.
detached. I laugh now because that's normal for me. And then we thought he would fit perfectly on the legs of the old lady who was lying in the freezer. So we put it all together. And then I played this wake-up music here. And then he woke up, looked down,
There's still
and thought,
time.
What's going on
Still
now?
time.
I have
He
breasts.
feels it in his chest.
Then we surprised him with
Let's
something nice.
proceed.
Yes.
He.
And then he went away. Of course, now he doesn't know his relatives. He has to redo everything.
Bit of
Get a new
rehab
ID.
is necessary.
Yes, Miseria. He comes for a massage every Thursday, but he's quite content.
You
In the
also have to
meantime,
make a little,
He has grown a beard.
instruction
So
manual.
that the scars aren't visible, he's completely stitched up and walks quite well, but has the habit of liking to walk in high heels. And as a result, he's not any taller, because you always have to cut away a little when stitching things together. That's an old rule.
Do you give a bit
Even
of
in tailoring, it's the
life
same.
advice there? Or maybe a sort of little
He
packing list?
receives a Bible. That's pretty clear. A small house Bible.
The basic foundation.
Yes.
The basic
Yes.
foundation.
Only the New Testament.
That is only the
Yes.
visible foundation.
Yes.
It must
Just the
develop
southern
into
foundation.
a way of life.
And then he also gets a small catalog of names, because he has to change his name. You know? Now he's called Jürgen Grosswieter. And you can't, I mean, a man and a woman together each have to have a distinct name where you can tell it's a man or a woman. You know? That's how it is in Germany, according to German standards.
Embarrassing.
And someone else also chose a last name. And he wanted to be called Karl May. Written as one
That
word.
was nice.
Karl
Starting point,
May.
yes, exactly.
That was nice,
Quite
right?
good, yes.
Yes. Jürgen Grosswieter. Karl May, that's a good name, right? He has a job. Actually, 2 jobs. That's convenient, isn't
Yes.
it? 2 jobs. So ironer and rower.
That is
competitive
actually
rower,
not very
right?
practical.
It fits, doesn't it?
It doesn't fit so well.
Yes.
Where do these 2 activities come
Yes.
together?
Very simple.
You can't row in the
know?
kitchen.
The rowing shorts also need to be ironed sometimes. So simple. So simple. But you don't think of the very simple things in life. That's it.